So guess what? It's actually happening, everyone. Looks like review copies of Diablo 4 are out to reviewers right now. They're playing it currently, but when can you expect actual reviews? New signs pointing towards an exact date. And wait a second, fans discover a feature in Diablo 4 that's considered cheating. I kid you not. We'll get into this in just a moment. And crucial info from the dev team about seasons, more on one of the most powerful classes in the in-game, free-downloading, and much more. So a lot going on there. So yeah, first and foremost, we're going to start out with this one right here. It says, we can officially say that the game is coming out next week. Let's go. I cannot believe it. I've been literally counting down the days over here. I am so excited. Ooh, it almost feels like Christmas. Alright, so imagine you guys want to know more about that review embargo for Diablo 4. So check it out right here. It says this, review embargo on the 26th. Pretty sure the embargo lifts this Friday on the 26th. That mods an ARPG MMO streamer said he knows a lot about the game, but can't talk about it until the 26th. Now, he also gives other examples from Jez Gordon and Paul Tassi. And if we head on over to the Twitterverse, we can check it out right here. It says this from Jez Gordon. Goes on to say, the feeling when you want to talk about a game so badly, but you can't because of embargo. What did Paul Tassi have to say right here? He says this, set down Destiny for Jedi Survivor, set down Jedi Survivor for Tears, setting down Tears for Diablo review now. I'm never gonna finish anything. LOL. Yeah, he's got quite the backlog building right now, so it seems like, yes, there are several personalities, reviewers that have access to Diablo 4 currently and are probably playing the hell out of it, and we will most likely have those final words, final reviews here on the 26th. So that should be interesting for sure. Now also, let's go to the official stuff as well. Rod Ferguson says this, I cannot wait to get this week started. So much cool stuff is happening this week, including 2 new trailers. So this week is going to be very big for Diablo 4. So stay tuned. I have you guys covered, of course. Now, what about pre-downloading? So guess what? Check it out right here. Zero asks this, when will we be able to pre-download Diablo 4? And the response from community manager Adam Fletcher says more news on that later this week. So we're going to be getting official word on when pre-downloading will begin for this game. So stay tuned for that one as well. Now we have Big Shot, who goes on to ask this as well. 2 questions. Can I complete the campaign on a softcore character and then skip campaign on the new hardcore character? Can I initially skip the campaign on a character, then choose to play it later to get any specific rewards like the bubble amulet from Vigo in Act 1? Great question. And Joseph Papora of Blizzard says you can skip the campaign on hardcore if you complete it first on softcore. You can't choose to skip the campaign and then decide to go play a part of it in isolation at launch. So there you have the answer right there. The more you know. I'm sure that's going to help out someone who also is kind of curious about hardcore versus softcore experience there. Next up, we have from Joshua. I've got a question. If I'm playing with a friend and decide to use that character while not in his season, will my story be where it was while playing together, or will I have to progress the story on my own? Great question. Rod Ferguson confirms depends if you were in sync with them. If so, then picks up where left off. If out of sync, then the world will be where it should be for you. So this is a game that definitely is more about host advantage if you are currently out of sync. If you are out of sync, it's very likely you'll want the lowest level player to actually be the one that is the host so he can actually advance and kind of catch up to the actual group. All right, so moving on, let's keep going because we have some more words from Adam Fletcher and some questions here from Rex, who goes on to ask this right here. He says, will the Battle Pass contents for Season 1 be revealed before release, even if it is just the special cosmetics tied to it? And Adam Fletcher says, yes. So guess what? We're going to be knowing exactly what is going to be in Season 1 Battle Pass before it even releases. So you can kind of gauge if you feel like, this is worth it or not. I'm very curious to see the actual initial reactions as opposed to when you actually get a hold of the Battle Pass, if there's going to be any difference of opinions there. Now, Chronics Aggress says the following right here. Question, are cinematics going to be locked again for PC at release, or are they going to be stuck at 28 to 30 frames per second? Because for me, it made all the cinematics stutter and look worse. And we have an update here from Rod Ferguson who says, I believe that's now an option where you can decide to lock them or not. So I'm thinking that now the cinematics are going to be looking like a higher quality version of their previous selves. At least I hope so. I mean, they've worked so hard on the cinematics and stories. I hope they're not running at a 30 frames per second choppy experience, 30 frames per second, where it's really smooth. That's okay, I guess. But when it gets choppy, you're having actual frame stutters, then yeah, you have a right to complain. Let me know about that whole discussion versus 60 versus 30, what you need with the cinematics. All right. Next up, we have this one right here from Julian, who says, Mr. Joe Shelley, the Sorcerer community needs to know, are frozen enemies also chilled? If you apply enough chill to freeze a target, are they considered both chilled and frozen, or just frozen? Do chilled modifiers also apply to frozen, also looping in AC Jackson and Rafara? And we have a response from Joseph, who says, frozen enemies are also considered chilled. So the more you know, Sorcerer community. So yeah, hopefully that helps out you sorcerers out there. But what about the druids? We got to talk about this one right here. Check it out. It goes on to say this. Diablo 4 devs say druid is one of the strongest in-game classes in testing. Check it out right here. It goes on to say this. Well, according to Diablo 4 Associate Game Director Joe Cora, speaking to GameStar, Druid is one class that dramatically scales up in the late game, so much so that everyone is underestimating its strength in these early levels. So I gotta ask, how many of you are now thinking about switching over to Druid now that you're hearing this news? It goes on to say the following right here. It says, the Druid is actually one of our strongest classes, at least according to our internal testing. However, players were not able to experience the Druid's full potential during our betas. Yes. And goes on to say this as well. Well, I think it's perfectly fine to judge how classes felt in the early hours of the beta. I think it's pretty clear that nothing can be fully judged until the game is live. That said, Blizzard is receptive to player complaints. While they may argue these classes will feel better later, they had no problem buffing and nerfing based on beta feedback, which they did with Barbarian and Druid specifically. When they realized they went too far with a Necromancer skeleton nerf, they reverted it midway through the final server slam. It's going to be very reactive sandbox, it seems. Yeah, I think it's going to be very reactive in the beginning of the launch, of course, especially when everyone starts to really get into the in-game. But at some point, you got to keep things as is, in my opinion, or people will just get super frustrated unless there's some sort of massive exploit discovered through some sort of season mechanic or something like that. Then I get further changes, but you got to be careful about constantly changing the game when finally people start getting into the flow of things. Currently, I get the change that they have made. I love the fact that they listen so closely about the Necromancer and the Skellies being too weak. I was really, really worried that people were just going to be like, well, there goes my Necromancer. I'm going to cancel my pre-order. Because I was actually seeing some people saying that, going to that extreme. So it's nice to know they're willing to really listen. All right, so we got to talk about this right here, cheating in Diablo 4, or at least what some people are saying is cheating. So check it out. It goes on to say this right here. Please, Blizzard, remove death evasion elixir and cheat death from hardcore. It says, I hated the Diablo 3 cheat death mechanics. I hate Sorcerer cheat death fire shield enchantment in Diablo 4. You're about to die. You should die. That's it. We have the Scroll of Escape. We have the immediate lock off. How many tools do we need to break the hardcore mode? Please don't put it in on launch. It takes so much excitement away from playing hardcore. Do you guys agree with this or not? Seems like it's a pretty big discussion within the hardcore community. If we scroll down here, we do have some opinions. Check it out. It says, what's the point of playing hardcore if you have access to these? It's not true hardcore. You might as well be playing softcore, LOL. And a response here for real. People saying don't use it have no clue at all. It's a feature. It impacts the game mode. With that logic, might as well be immortal and say, just quit when you take X amount of damage. Every hardcore feature impacts the mode. Not only personal experience, but also the achievements, ladder, bling, whatever else making this mode hardcore. If you have a level 100 hardcore character, no one knows if you use the potion or not, and everybody assumes you've used all game mechanics available as you should. So yikes, this is definitely causing a discussion. And I have, I suppose my own opinions about teleporting out. Well, in mid-battle with Ashava, I still think teleporting should be limited during an Ashava battle. I know a lot of you guys are like, well, hold up, I want to be able to repair. But yeah, you're not doing any damage. Like, how long are you repairing for? Are you taking like 5 minutes out of not doing damage, Then again, I know that durability becomes an issue in world boss battles. So yeah, I do kind of get the urge to be able to quickly repair. As long as you're quick, I suppose it's no big deal, but it's also kind of like a fitting punishment, You're supposed to be skilled enough to really kind of dodge these blows and really not take damage in world boss battles. It's kind of what it's about, at least in my opinion. All right, so let's keep going. We have this one. This is definitely an interesting discussion. Check it out right here. It goes on to say the following. PSA, keep your Obol caches in the bank. This stirred up a lot of controversy, by the way. It says you'll get different caches as rewards from quests. One of them clearly says that it will contain Obols. You can keep them in the stash and open them when you are higher level or stuck and need gear fast. That way, you will not reach the Obol limit so quickly. Not everyone agreed with this, by the way. A lot of people were like, wait a second, put your Obols in the stash? Why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you just like immediately spend it? In fact, there was this reply right here from T.O. David, who says this. I've played Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3. He's played them all. I'm going to play Diablo 4. Hey, where's Diablo Immortal? No, I'm just kidding. Because your level is what matters. Do not save boxes, Obols, gold, or anything. Turn them into items, even if it's an item with +5 armor. Everything that makes you kill faster, move faster, will make you level up faster. So when you get there in the highest level very fast, you will drop everything that will matter. Gold will come in higher quantity, and you will remember this answer and thank me. Enjoy the game. So yeah, some people are like, wait, what? Shouldn't I not handicap myself and try to get the best gear to level up quickly? It's not going to help me get through these mobs a lot faster and clear dungeons faster. Yeah, a lot of different opinions, including this one right here. This is where it gets very interesting. Check it out. It says you're partially correct, except for when it comes to Obols, you're just plain wrong. Gambling is going to be one of the best ways to power up at the end game. You don't need to spend them to level quickly. It should only be considered if you've been unlucky with weapon drops for 5+ levels and really need a new weapon, but this should only matter between levels 25 and 50. Do not use Obols at all before level 25 and only use them on weapons. Weapons will make the most difference in increasing your killing power. Play on World Tier 1 for leveling purposes, but mostly save your Obols for higher levels. You're losing out on so much gear potential by spending them early and for hardly any gain in level speed. Interesting right there. So yes, seems like a lot of people, by the way, are going to be playing on World Tier 1. I'm going to talk about that more later in the video. I saw one of the comments here that actually has a question for me, so I'll get into that in just a moment. World Tier 1 versus World Tier 2 discussion. Trust me, it's definitely interesting. Now, a lot of you guys are also wondering, hey, when are they going to announce the 6th class? Is that going to be a thing? Check it out right here. So we have this thread here. Blizzard, don't be shy. Announce the holy class. And of course, we have this artwork. This was originally on display, and it shows that very much paladin type character, holy knight perhaps, on top of the army. Looks really cool. So this is what I would expect to be the next class. But when would we realistically hear about them start talking about a new class? Now, it could perhaps be happening on this date right here. Check it out. To save the date, BlizzCon is coming November 3rd through the 4th. See you there. So if you missed it, yes, we're going to be getting BlizzCon, and Diablo 4 will most definitely be there. And I would assume that just maybe they would tease the new class that's coming up. That would be the time frame when the game would be nearing 6 months old. And they might want to share something new, of course. Perhaps they'll tease it before then and then show us the actual class during BlizzCon. I am sure they want to show something big at BlizzCon. Diablo 4 is going to be their, stellar franchise now, given a lot of the controversies that has happened in the past with a lot of Blizzard games. But yeah, now it's time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up in in a future video. So let's get into this. My most recent video was this one right here. Diablo 4, the devs just confirmed this is changing. And is that the monk? All new update. So yeah, check out that video if you want to find out more about what's potentially going on around with the monk. I personally still think we're getting a Holy Knight Paladin type class with the shield, because the shield is very much kind of missing from the experience with Diablo 4, except necromancers can get a shield. Alright, so we have Trap Music Now, who says this right here. I was on to say, new immortal class is a vampire that utilizes daggers. I think that's actually pretty cool that they are introducing that type of class in Diablo Immortal. It seems like they're kind of like playing around with new ideas. I do want new stuff for Diablo 4. I'm just going to say it. Nostalgia is cool, and I am excited to see what they bring us with nostalgia down the road. But bring us some really cool new stuff as well. Now, Justin Sinky says this. Personally, while the monk is a possibility, I still strongly suspect the next class to be introduced to Diablo 4 will be something that uses a shield, and the monk doesn't fit that image. And honestly, it feels more like it's just going bald head equals monk. At present, only the necromancer uses a shield, and that still feels like an odd choice to me. Yeah, you know, I kind of felt that way too. The shield offers very distinct mechanical bonuses, block chance, I believe, and an extra piece of armor for socket reasons. In a way, the Scythe and Comma, both necro exclusives, I believe, really don't when comparing weapons, and I don't see the necromancer being the only one who has access to it for long. I've heard that Thorn's build with the shield is gonna be very viable. I don't know if in the in-game that's true. But yeah, when I think of shield, my first thought definitely is not necro. I did mess around with it during the beta, and honestly, I didn't stick with the shield like dagger combination for too long. I moved back to the Scythe because I just think it looks cooler too. But it also had a lot better bonuses, so I'm kind of curious to see how popular the shield combo will be with the necromancer. I have a sneaking suspicion it's not going to be the top pick for the necro, simply because they still want to reserve that experience like for the paladin. All right, next up we have Dark Stalker, who says this: loving the daily updates, make the long wait until release that much easier. I have you guys covered, so yes, stay tuned. So Constantine says this: hey, what do you think about the World Tier 1 versus World Tier 2 discussion or issue? Is it more or less when you choose World Tier 2 above Tier 1, you kill the mob slower, and you fall back in experience and gold simply because World Tier 1 is super easy? In my opinion, they should add more benefits to playing World Tier 2. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that World Tier 1 and World Tier 2 also share the exact same loot pool. So in terms of loot, there's no real reason, of course. If you're wanting that extremely unique item from World Tier 2, it's just not going to happen. World Tier 3, though, that's where things change. They introduce a new loot pool there, of course, and it keeps going to World Tier 4. Now, with actual leveling, from what I am hearing within the Diablo 4 community, is that you would want to play World Tier 1 for leveling purposes, get through the campaign as quickly as possible, and then once you hit that capstone dungeon, you switch over to World Tier 2, and then that would grant you access to World Tier 3 once you defeat the capstone dungeon. Then again, you know, I say just sit back and enjoy the ride. If you're really enjoying the feeling of World Tier 2 and loving the actual gameplay and the flow of how everything feels, then stick to World Tier 2. Who cares? You know, as long as you're enjoying the game. That's my personal opinion. Because I myself, I really love the feeling of World Tier 2 in the server slam. And I'm like, man, I don't want to rush through the story. Like, I hate the idea of just rushing through the story. They built this story for years and years, and to actually rush through it would just be like a disservice to the writers and the whole team that put this together. So yeah, I say definitely sit back and enjoy the ride. But if you really want to be quick about leveling up, go for it. World Tier 1 seems to be the answer right now. By the way, remember, there is going to be a day 1 patch, so all of this can change overnight, so stay tuned. I'll have all the news about what's in the day 1 patch, because I'm thinking that there's going to be further balancing changes. Maybe they'll change stuff around World Tier 1 versus World Tier 2. You never know. They might be listening to feedback. But there it is. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Diablo 4 coverage and updates. And yes, more open world gaming goodness. And I will see you all next time. Take care.